Hey, Thrive Tribe. Welcome back to Warrior Voices and Merry Christmas Eve, everybody. So, today I have one of the trauma survivor ambassadors with me, Angela Madden, and she is going to talk about a subject that is not talked about enough. So, I'm extremely grateful for her courage and her bravery to talk about this. But Angela is here to talk about sibling loss and how siblings often get lost in the grief and the pain that comes to a family when they lose a loved one. Angela has lost her sister and two stepsisters. So she is very familiar with the pain of a close loss like that. And so, Angela, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this on Christmas Eve. I really appreciate your willingness to open up about this subject that's not talked about enough.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's start off with, tell me a little bit about your family dynamic. Your sister Andrea was one of your first major losses, and so let's talk about your childhood and what your sisterhood looked like.
So she was my younger sister. She was 3 years younger than me. Um, we grew up in a divorced family. Our parents divorced when we were really young. I was 5, she was 3. Yeah, about 3 years old. So I mean, I don't remember a lot of our parents being married. The little bit I do remember, they did fight a lot. Growing up, we were each other's best friends, because back and forth at, mom's house to dad's house, when we would go to dad's, we only had each other to play with on the weekends and stuff. So she was my best friend growing up. Um, I figured this,
That's okay. Go ahead and take a minute.
but also being the little sister, she also was kind of like, the little brat, we fought a lot. She always had to have whatever I had. So like Christmas, birthdays, there was always two of everything. If I got something on a birthday, she got it too. If it was her birthday and she got something, I got the same thing, you know. Then as we got older, I feel like we still had a pretty close relationship. Um, into adulthood is when we probably kind of drifted apart a little bit. She unfortunately did get involved in drugs. So I feel like that's probably when we faded, or not faded, but, kind of went apart a little bit. Our lives just went in different directions, which I
And
guess
that's
happens.
Yeah, that's the sad reality of addiction to drugs and
Yeah.
addiction to anything. As you know, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and that's in addiction, we cause our family pain and suffering and fear,
Yeah.
So it makes sense that, maybe that added a little bit of a struggle to your guys' relationship because being her older sister, it had to be difficult to see her do
Oh,
that
yeah.
to herself, and to punish
Well,
herself like that.
yeah, it was tough. I mean, me and my mom, I think my dad went a couple times. We went to um, like the drug addict anonymous things with her, like trying to support her. But it just got to the point where she didn't want to do the work. So it's like, how do you help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves? And as her older sister, I just kind of felt like, I guess not like a failure, but kind of like I was letting her down because I couldn't help her.
Mm.
And then, getting married and having a life of my own, it was hard to just can't babysit her anymore. So we kind of have to let her do her own thing. And then she met somebody who did babysit her. I I didn't like the guy, but he babysat her, went through her stuff, and that was what got her clean. And then we kinda started building a little bit of a relationship after that again, but it wasn't the same anymore, and that sucks. Like, we weren't as close as we were, but she still it became more of like a almost like a mother-daughter relationship almost because she needed stuff. She would call when she needed stuff. She was very dependent on me and my mom. So, like, I hate to say it because I didn't she isn't she wasn't my kid, but, like, in some ways, I feel like I lost a child because I did so much for her and I took care of her so much.
Mm. I am so sorry. I know this is very difficult to talk about, and I appreciate you going back to that time so other people can learn and know that they're not alone, because I think a huge amount of people are out there going through something similar. Loving an addict even from a distance. And it sounds to me like you felt very helpless. You were not a failure, but you're definitely not alone in the fact of feeling helpless, because the fact of the matter is you can't help them until they're ready to help
Yeah.
themselves.
Oh, I've
And
learned that.
yeah, and it's very frustrating. It is so, so frustrating.
Yeah.
And as you know, I lost my daughter, and she was in and out of addiction and a very violent, abusive relationships. And I felt completely helpless to, because she didn't, so, sometimes she'd want the help and then sometimes she didn't want the help.
Mm,
And so, um, it sounds to me like with the responsibilities that you took on with caring for her, and especially coming from like a divorced family, that she counted on you as a big
yeah,
sister, right? And so she probably looked up to you almost as a mother figure, which unintentionally puts a lot of pressure on you, right?
yeah.
And a lot on your shoulders, especially at such a young age. So I follow you on your Facebook. We're friends. We're in the same Jeep group, and I see you post a lot of great memories, though, about Andrea and you guys' relationship. So I want you to think back and tell me some of the fun things that, some of the great memories that you hold on to that maybe help you get through some of these tough days.
Just she was so funny.
She definitely had a lot of spirit. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Oh god.
She was sassy. She had different color hair, different hairs.
Yep.
It seemed like she had no fear. She was
Yeah.
who she was, and
Yep.
that
She
was it.
was so funny. I mean, like, one of and it I started I started it mainly for our nephew because my youngest sister got pregnant, um, right after Andrea passed away, and, so I'll never get to know her. Um, so I started a journal mainly for memories so I don't forget her, but I wanted to do it for him too because he'll never get to know her. So I was starting this memory book, and I don't even remember how the memory popped into my head, but me, Andrea, and my husband were, we were at Max and Irma's, which they're not even around anymore, but we were we went there for dinner or something. 3 of us are sitting there, and she got a glass of water, and she's just sitting there, and all of a sudden, she's like, "Drinking water reminds me of swimming." Like, she's just sitting there drinking a glass of water and telling us that it reminds her of going swimming. But, like, that was random stuff that would come out of her mouth. Like, just she's a grown adult, and
Yeah,
stuff like that would pop into her head, and so, like, that's a memory that I wrote down, and then if I have, like, a little printer, so, like, if I have a coordinating picture to the memory, like, I print the picture out, so he'll have this little picture book to go along with it once he's old enough to have it. I'll give it to him,
that is amazing. And
but
I think when we're in such heavy grief, well, for me anyways, I'll only speak for
Mhm.
myself, but a lot of people kept telling me like, hold on to all the good memories, hold on to all the good memories. And when she first passed, for the life of me, I could not think of any of the good
No,
memories.
I
They were
don't
all
remember the
gone.
bad.
And I was more filled with like everything. I felt robbed, right? I felt she was robbed of a life that she deserved, getting married, having a family, having 12 dogs, because she for sure would have had 50 animals, 12 of them at least being dogs. And I really couldn't think of any of the really good memories, the ones that made me laugh, the ones her and I bonded over. So writing this journal is such a great way for one for you to heal, but also to for your nephew to know her. And because right away you said he'll never know her, but he will through you. And what a gift that you're giving him, but also to yourself, because when you sit down and you start writing out memories, you are subconsciously letting your brain and your nervous system know you're safe, and you will start to remember more and more as you're writing that, because you are letting, like I said, letting your nervous system know it's safe to do this.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you went through a lot of like what I did, where it was really hard to think of those good memories. Um, and so hopefully this journal will help you on your healing journey. But I definitely know that's such a wonderful gift you're doing for your nephew. So I know that like you're a huge family person. You talk a lot about your family, you're close with your family. It almost feels like you're the family gatekeeper, right? Bringing people together, loving everybody, without judgment, unconditional. So, in fact, I was honored because I got to meet some of your family. And I wanted to bring this up today because I really feel we need to normalize this more often. But you had a 40th birthday party for Andrea. And even though she wasn't with us, you still had the party. And I thought, this has got to be the most freaking amazing thing that I've ever seen or heard of. And when we got there, you had lots of photo albums. A lot of people were talking about Andrea and some of the great memories and that they had of her. And I just thought, what a wonderful thing to do, because a lot of times we'll have a funeral or a memorial service or a celebration of life, and then that's it.
Yeah.
But why? Like, why? Like, you know me, I like to break rules and I like to make rules like that benefit me and people around me. So I really think that that's something that should become a norm, is having those moments, like those birthday parties, those significant birthday parties in honor of somebody. So tell me about that birthday party. Like, what made you think to have it and what did you get out of it?
My reasoning for having that, first, my the first reason I wanted to have it was I had a lot of regrets about her funeral. I was upset that I didn't get up and talk at her funeral, but I mean, we're going on 3 years now, and I still can't talk without crying. Even trying to talk about a happy feeling about her, I wanna cry. So I know there's no way I could have talked at that funeral. I would have been just an absolute mess. Um, so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this party because she should have been turning 40 this year, and I had to turn 40, so she's not getting out of this either." And I was like, "Okay, I had, like, 3 pages of stuff that I wanted to say about her that day, and that still wasn't gonna happen. Um, so that was the first thing. I wanted to talk about her, but that didn't happen. So I was basically trying to, like, make up for the things that I forgot to do the day of the funeral because my mom was a mess. Her My dad was holding it together. I mean, My dad is kinda like me where he doesn't outwardly show emotion. Um, so I mean, I don't wanna say I was doing pretty much everything on my own, but I feel like I was trying to do everything for them. So I know things got forgotten about day of the funeral. Like, she loved music, and I didn't play any songs during her service. Like, we had music playing, but I didn't play any songs for her during the service. Like, people do a song before and then after, and I just couldn't believe that I left that out, and so, like, that upset me, so I, like, made sure that I picked music out for the memorial party for her 40th, so there were certain songs playing that I knew she liked, so I made sure I did that, and then I just like, the colors, I made sure everything was pink and green because those are her favorite colors, so I just made sure that things were more detailed oriented for her for the party, and I know if she didn't get a 40th party, she would have flipped out. So, like, I knew she needed to have it,
But, and I
and
love
it
that. I
helped
love
me.
Did it help you in what ways?
It it helped just getting people together for something happy for her and seeing family, for something other than a funeral, and a couple of her friends came out, so it was nice to see them. One of her really, like, longtime friends that her and my mom actually, like, helped get clean. If it hadn't been for them letting her move in, she probably wouldn't have gotten to where she got. So she really, like, valued her friendship with my sister. So it was really important to have her there, and she made cupcakes and everything, even though she was late. But I'll forgive her for it. She came a long way, so
Yeah, yeah. No, and so what an opportunity that you gave everybody else too. And I hope that you give yourself grace. I know you're super hard on yourself, but you're talking about your sister's memorial and being upset that you forgot to do things or you felt like you couldn't do anything like talk. Um, but man, that's a lot for you to put on your shoulders. I mean, that was your sister, and you had to been going through such a tremendous amount of grief and pain that to me it's unfathomable to me how people can have funerals and stuff 2 days after. Like,
yeah,
how do you even get it together to find a funeral home and do all the things? And, like when my daughter passed, I had no idea. Who do I call? What do I do? How do I set this up? Like, and I waited a month because I I'm a planner like you, and I am very detail oriented like yourself, and I wanted something, that honored her and her favorites, like your sister's favorite colors, songs, things like that. And that takes time. But when you're a sibling, it's really out of your control. So, it's more the parents, and then they have to do the planning, and you just kind of
yeah.
got to follow along with that. But let's talk about so today we're on here to talk about the sibling loss and how critical it is that we start paying attention to the brothers and sisters that have lost their sibling, because I do feel that they're very overlooked and that their grief may get minimized. And so I want to talk about you and how that may have happened to you. And then and then we'll talk to the Thrive Tribe and in case they're going through something like this and maybe some things they can do to help navigate something along those lines. So tell me about how you felt kind of lost in that process.
For me, it was more afterwards. Like, day of, I was the first person people saw when they came in because I didn't wanna be in the room. So I was outside in the little lobby area, so people saw me first. My mom was right there next to her the whole time. So that was the last person they saw. Um, I didn't actually go in there until end of the day after everything was over, but, um, after everything was said and done, people are always like, "How's your mom doing? How's your mom doing? How's your dad doing?" And it's just like, "I don't know. Why don't you call them? You have their phone number. I'm not your messenger. Call them."
Mhm.
They have had the same phone my mom's had the same phone number since I was in high school, and I'm 43. So, call her. I shouldn't have to do that. And then, like, my mom fell and broke her femur and ended up in the nursing home for rehab and everything, so this was probably what, that 4 or 5 4 months afterwards? So, I'm going from that to dealing with my mom and going back and forth nursing home every day, and then all of a sudden they're moving South Carolina that fast, and it's just me having to pack up their apartment for them, and so I'm obviously stressed. I've got no help. The only one of my step-siblings that helped was my stepsister, Janine, who was battling cancer at the time, and, so dealing with that, and, I can't get anybody to help me, so I had made a post about, being stressed out and missing my sister, and I get basically backlash from family telling me that I need to be strong for my mother and my dad.
Mm.
I say, "Well, what about me? Like, I'm struggling right now. Nobody except for, like, some of my cousins, one of my aunts, I mean, she still is, but she was just freaking amazing the entire time. Like, she was sending me both of my younger sisters who are not her nieces. This is my mom's half sister, and my 2 younger sisters are my dad and my stepmom's kids. So they're not related to this aunt, but she's sending them cards almost monthly. They were like, I don't know if they still get them, but she was sending them cards almost monthly. Um, she did like a whole little, I don't even know where it's at now, but this whole little like memory thing with like poems. And then on the anniversary, she sent us a little piglet because my sister loved Winnie the Pooh. She sent us a little piglet and a poem. It was the "Today is a Hard Day" poem from Winnie the Pooh. So, I mean, she was just amazing. So, she was not one of the ones that, like, I had to flip out on, basically. But it's almost like some people forget that, we lost somebody too, not just my mom and my dad. And I dealt with my sister a lot and did a lot for her. And, like, growing up, our mom worked. So when I got home from school, then Andrea got home, I took care of her after school. So it's like I had a person to take care of, and I was with her all the time. And then all of a sudden she's just gone.
So when they started, so I want to back up for a quick second. So when you made that post and people were saying, you need to be strong for your mom and your dad, what message was that telling you deep down?
That my feelings didn't matter, that I basically shouldn't have said anything or I should have just kept my mouth shut.
Yeah. And that is so freaking important. And that we get that across because you in fact had a tremendous loss, and especially with how close you and Andrea were. You guys went through a divorce together. You were being raised by a single mom. that obviously had to work. Um, Andrea coming up from school, you were like her caregiver, day in and day out. You were her person her whole life, her whole
Yeah, for
life.
a while.
So, you know, because you were there when she was born and you were there when she died. You were there her entire life. And so it makes sense now, even hearing more of your story, that you felt like you lost a child because she was a part of your life every single day. And you had to step in as a mother at times. I'm sure even when she was going through addiction, that you had to play a more authority type role when you were trying to help her. And so, but you said, let's talk a little bit because I, I, I despise when people say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. So, like, for example, when I had some gut issues and I went to doctors, I was told what not to do, what not to eat, what not this, what not that, but I was never told what I should do, what I
Right.
could do. So let's talk about your aunt. And you said that she has been a great support from the very beginning. And just something as simple as sending a card. Tell
Hmm.
me then, what message was she giving you? The deeper message. What were you hearing from that?
The supportive aunt, just that she sees me, but she's a special person. Um, she's just she's the aunt that, like, at Christmas, she's been doing this since our, um when uncle passed away, like, he always had coffee. She gets a cup of coffee at every Christmas gathering and puts it on the table, and that's his cup of coffee.
Mm.
So she sets up a little memorial for him every Christmas, and that's Uncle Bob's coffee cup, and then now she's added to it. She puts When she had her hysterectomy, she never got to have kids, and then she got told she had to have a total hysterectomy, and so then, the choice was completely taken from her. She took it very hard. My mom got her this little stuffed animal dog, and she takes it everywhere with her, but she brings it to Christmas, and she puts it on the table next to the cup of coffee, and then she puts her mom's ashes, like a little necklace, their dad's fingerprint necklace, and then she's got a little vial of my sister's ashes that she puts on it, and she puts all that stuff on the dog next to Uncle Bob's coffee cup, and that's like our little memorial at, family parties. So, I mean, she's very thoughtful about stuff like that. And, I mean, she's gone through a lot of loss too. She's lost her mom, her dad, friends, her mother-in-law, I believe they might have lost a sister-in-law on her husband's side of the family, it could be wrong. So, I mean, she's a caregiver. She takes care of elderly people. So she's lost patience, so she understands loss.
Yeah.
So that could be why she gets it.
Well, not only does she get it, she gets how to treat other people that are going through a loss, and maybe she is kind of doing what she wished people did for her.
Probably.
But her message to you and sending you cards and your other sibling cards and stuff is saying your feelings do matter.
Mhm.
So that is a huge difference of when people are saying, well, what about your parents? They lost a child, making you feel unheard, unseen, and like your feelings didn't matter, to someone simply saying, how are you doing, Angela?
Mhm.
How are you getting through the holidays? They're acknowledging that you have the right to feel grief.
Yep.
And, so good for her. And what I love about what you just said about her too is she does her thing. It doesn't matter if it's normal, if it's accepted by society that at major holidays she sets up his cup of coffee and she brings everybody that can't be there.
Yep.
And I've started seeing that at weddings, right?
Mhm.
They'll
They
set
have a
up
seat.
a, yeah, a table setting for people that are not there. They'll have maybe a dedicated table with pictures of grandma and grandpa. So, and everyone enjoys that. So why
Mhm.
not? Why not do 40th birthday parties. Why not place have a setting for them at Christmas or special occasions? I think we need to start making that normal. And what a blessing that would be for so many families that are grieving. I know, like, as someone that lost um, a daughter, that unfortunately, and I learned this from you, Angela, I really did. I think it was watching your post that it really dawned on me. I just lost my daughter 2.5 years ago, so this is all new to me too. Um, but looking back, I'm like, how did I support my boys, my sons, like when they lost their sister? And did I validate their loss? Have I validated their feelings? I know for me, it was really hard to hear other people's grief over my daughter because I was so full of it myself that I didn't have it in me to really be there for them and to support them. Sadly, and you know me, I'm a big supporter, right? And that's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
But I felt so empty. I didn't know how to give or how to um, empower them or to even validate their feelings. And so I'm so grateful for you talking out loud, like through the ambassador program. And you were doing it well before this, even. But I learned from you, like, wait a second, they lost their person too. And my boys they're both older. She was the baby of the family, and they were her protectors. And she called them all the time. And they were giving that typical big brother type advice,
Yeah.
when she found herself in hardships, in bad relationships, when she was going through difficult times. She called them, and they too felt helpless, trying to help her when she didn't want the help. She wasn't ready for the help. It's not that I don't want to say that they don't want help, they're not ready
Yeah.
for help. And it was very frustrating to my boys. And, like it was to me and her father. And when she passed, I feel like it must have hit them. Like, did they do enough? Were they there? Like all the things you were feeling. Did I let her down? But they didn't. They gave her everything, everything that they possibly could. And so I know that their loss was extremely traumatic. But
Yeah.
you telling your story started making me think of ways like, how can I support them? And I remember, I don't know, after reading one of your posts, I text them both and I'm like, how are you guys doing? Like, tell me about what you're going through. And just making that first step. And I apologize. And of course they're like, no, mom, you're fine. You're fine. But like, I hope I didn't, um, abandon you during your loss. And so I appreciate you for that. And I think we're all here to learn about that because that had to have been incredibly painful for you to be forgotten during this loss, or at least your feelings, feeling like you don't have the right to grieve as much as your parents because you do. This was a traumatic loss.
Yeah. And then I still do it where I feel like I'm, like, making my loss not as important as somebody else's loss. Like, somebody else in our Jeep group that lost their daughter, and I commented on her post about something, and I said, like, I was commenting and I said, "Well, I only lost my sister." And she replied to me and she's like, "Please don't say that." She's like, "You didn't just lose your sister." And I'm like, "I know, I've got it so ingrained in my brain that, a sister loss isn't as bad as a daughter loss." But that's just how I've not, like, been taught, but just how I almost wanna say, like, how society has trained us. You lose a child, it's worse than losing just a sibling,
Hmm.
but that's almost how society is training us.
Well, screw society. So, society was formed on things that they believed back then, resources that were available back then, but
Yeah,
life is constantly evolving. And I feel like the overall hard beliefs take a while to catch up with with the new changes.
yeah,
So it takes people like us to say, enough of that. That's just not acceptable anymore. So we need to change the way we look at these things. But I got to tell you, Angela, this is going to be like the coach coming out in me. You will never feel validated that your trauma and your loss is just as equal to others until you believe it yourself.
yeah. Oh, I know.
And so when people may say something like, well, how's your parents doing? It's going to hurt even more because you look at that as like a validation that your feelings are not as important.
Yeah,
Like, yep, see, I knew it. See, I knew mine are not as important. But deep down, they are. And you know the loss that you're feeling like nobody else. Nobody knows. I don't care if they've lost siblings, lost children. No one knows your pain like you do. And so let's start. Let's start a new trend of acknowledging more. And for all the aunts and uncles and people out there, what a great gift you can give to your nieces, nephews, friends is when there is a loss of a sibling, maybe the parents don't have it in them to properly support their other child that just lost a sibling because they just lost a child. But like your aunt stepping in and doing it, it really takes just one person to really see you and feel you and acknowledge you and give you permission to feel that pain. So, because again, maybe your parents like me, I didn't have it in me. Like my mom
yeah.
struggles very, very hard with my daughter's loss, but she lost a daughter, my sister, um, and then she lost a grandchild. And I have a really hard time supporting her through it because I don't know what to say. I can help other people through grief, but I have a hard time helping my own family through grief. It's a bizarre thing. So what would you like help us be better supporters? What would you like to see happen when it comes to sibling loss? Like what would have helped you grieve the way you wanted to grieve?
So this actually has already come up in my life this year. Um, Family member, one of my cousins, her daughter lost her 10-year-old over the summer to a drowning accident, and she has a 6-year-old daughter as well. So she's actually really been, I don't wanna say she's been, like, leaning on me, but she's really taken a lot of what I've posted to heart as far as, like, making sure she's listening to her daughter, or trying to anyways, because she can't understand how her daughter is grieving. Plus, she's a 6-year-old. Like, I don't even know how a 6-year-old grieves. And I started reading a book. Um, it's it's about sibling grief, the, Forgotten Grievers. I think that's the name of it. I can look it up and give you the actual name of it. But, I recommended the book to her for obviously for when her daughter gets a little older or even for her to read it because it has a lot of good tips in it, and there's even a part for, like, younger kids, and one of them was to get a journal for kids, and the story that I had read, the girl, it was a younger girl when her sibling passed away. She said her parents it was the same situation. Parents almost were, like, ignoring her because she was young and her older sibling passed away. Parents were so involved with everything going on, she was just kinda, like, left to the side. People were just everywhere ignoring her, one of her parents' friends or an aunt or somebody came over to her, asked her basically, "Do you wanna go somewhere?" Took her to the store, bought her a journal so she could start. They told her, "Pick out any journal you want. Let's go get a fancy pen." Took her, just to pick out everything she wanted so she could start journaling. So I messaged my cousin's daughter, I guess she'd be my second cousin, so I texted her right away and said, "I know she's 6, she's probably not, gonna be journaling right away, but maybe get her, like, a sketch pad, she can draw pictures so she could start drawing these memories of her brother." So she's actually started doing stuff like that with her just to get her, going as a way for her to start a form of communication and getting memories down. And she says it seems to be helping her, but again, she's 6. So I mean, as she grows up, she's probably not going to remember her brother at all, which is really sad. But they also come from a different generation where they take videos nonstop. She has so many videos of him. He was autistic and kinda nonverbal. He spoke, but he sang a lot. So I think that's why they did videos. So the videos she has of him, she's just got so many, and it's, like, videos of him singing, and just he'll be sitting at the kitchen table and just singing random songs and stuff like that, and it's just great, and it makes me so sad that I don't have all these videos of my sister. So, I mean, it's great that they did that because 'cause she'll have all these videos of her brother when she gets older, so she'll at least have that. But as far as advice for other people, you have to remember that it's not just the parents, not just the grandparents that lost the person, there's a sibling involved. And sometimes, especially in mine situation, sometimes the siblings spend more time together than the parents. All of our parents worked. We were in a divorced home, so Monday through Friday, our mom and our stepdad, they worked. They were gone till, 5 o'clock. So it was just me and my sister together. And then on the weekends, we were with our dad and our stepmom, but we were usually in our room playing Barbies, till 2, 3 in the morning. It was just us. So, I mean, we spent a lot of time together. Usually the bond between the sibling is more than the bond between the child and the parent in most cases. My mom and my sister were very close, but I feel like that happened as they got older. Like, yeah, they were best friends, and that's probably why my mom is taking this loss the way she is. But that relationship happened as they got older because my sister needed my mom so much. She was very dependent on me and my mom. But growing up, that was me and my sister,
Yeah.
and I don't have that now.
Such an important lesson that you're giving all of us. And again, I appreciate your vulnerability and your courage to get on here when I know it's such a hard time right now. It's the holidays, which is hard for anyone that's going through grief. But sounds to me like your message is wake up, people. It's not just parents that has had a loss. Siblings have a unique um, grief and loss when it comes to losing a sibling because most of the time, like we said, one or the other has known each other their entire life and right from birth. And the community of, yes,
13,559 days.
yeah. So you've known her from the day she was born. And my boys, they knew Hope from the day she was born, right? To they were old enough to remember going to the hospital and meeting her for the very first time. So we need to start acknowledging sibling grief. And when I lost my sister, I was older. And I don't really remember anyone asking how I was doing. The focus was like on my mom, um, my sister's husband and children, which was fine and where it needed to be. But I I can relate to the fact no one was like, "Well, how are you dealing with this grief? How are you
Yeah.
dealing?" And she was diagnosed with cancer, and then within 10 days she passed. So I no longer like just found out that she was diagnosed, and now I'm sitting at her bedside right before they, you know, take her off life support. And so then there was like no time to process or to grieve or, but sadly, I think I felt like I didn't have a place to grieve.
Right.
Kind of like you felt like everybody else, everybody else's loss is more than mine. So I think another message is not just to the people that are surrounding siblings to show more support, but it's also to the people that lost a sibling is you have the right to grieve. You need to take up space to grieve that you it is perfectly okay to ask for support from even your parents or other people that are losing that have lost something. Um so how do because to me in order to change this, we have to talk about it more. And this is a great start. And you're posting already, you're changing because you just did for your second cousin, right? You posting out loud is really helping her on her journey. And my heart goes out to her and her family, to all of you guys, because I can't imagine that devastating loss that she went through, losing a young
Yeah.
child to drowning, and then go as she's trying to navigate this grief and this new way of life, having a daughter that she has to worry about and how this is
Yeah.
affecting her daughter and how she can support her daughter when she is probably barely staying above board herself going
Yeah.
through this. Um, so please let her know, like, we do that support group every other Wednesdays that will start again after the new year. That she could, both of you guys could jump in on, and because we just learn from each other, and
Yeah.
because to me trauma is trauma, but I think it's important for people that are grieving, that we need to speak up if we're being not seen or feeling unseen and unheard, that we need to ask for support. And that's really hard to do, Angela. So how can people start saying, well, wait a second, what about me without feeling selfish? Because that is society talking. If you ask for support during a time like this, that is being selfish. And screw that. Absolutely screw that. I don't want to see another sibling ever feel what you went through. So what can we do differently if we are that sibling and we're feeling unheard?
I I don't know. The only thing I can suggest is what I've learned, and I'm just taking a page out of my sister's book, is her her favorite word was the F word, and that's just kind of where I'm at now with life, and I'm just basically saying "F it," and she didn't have a filter, and that's pretty much where I'm at. In I don't know if it's because I'm in my 40s now, but I just don't care. I've gone off on all like, my step-siblings, I've gone off on aunts or a aunt that I had to. I've deleted pretty much all my family, for the most part, off of my Facebook because I couldn't handle it anymore. I'm just to the point where I don't have time to be railroaded or walked all over. Like, how I see it, I'm halfway through my life, and I don't have time for bullshit.
Yeah. It's not even that you don't have time, you don't deserve it. You don't need it
That
in your
too.
life.
Yeah.
And you're just not going to tolerate it anymore. And I think it's an incredible thing that happens to us when we're in our 40s, but there's nothing holding us back from learning this stuff when we're 20, when we're
Yeah.
30. Like, let's not wait till we're 40 years old where society again gives us
Yeah.
permission to start not caring. And I don't think it's a not caring. We're so saying that, like, I just don't give a shit anymore. We do.
Yeah.
We never stop caring, but you know what we start doing? Is caring about ourselves.
Yeah, that's probably more what it is, maybe the combination of counseling and I've just the Jeep group probably has a lot to do with it because I get more support from them than I do from some people in my family, which is really sad.
Mm,
But we've had more people in the Jeep group check on us than we have had people in our family check on us after losing, my sister. And then, we lost my father in law the following May. We had more people check on us after he passed away than we did in our own family. Like,
mm.
we got sympathy cards from the Jeep group, and people in our own family didn't even know that my father-in-law passed away. Like,
Wow.
that's awful that, we're to that point where strangers check on us.
Yeah, and part of that could be that because they're not in the situation, but I think that you're talking about like the Jeep group. I think that is something very healthy that anyone can do is maybe it's not a Jeep group, maybe you're not obsessed like Angela and I are about our Jeep group, which if you're a woman and you own any type of Jeep, you're more than welcome to join us. It's the Jeep Babes Enthusiast Club where we have a Michigan chapter and we have a worldwide chapter. You're welcome to join us because it is a big sisterhood. It is a big support group. But when you're going through something like this, I think that is a great coping skill is to reach out and maybe join a group,
Yeah.
with
It's helped me a
something, maybe
lot.
join a gym, uh, join anything that you can that where you can find support. But other things that you've done are like the 40th birthday party.
Yeah,
You're starting to honor your sister, and by carrying like her spirit of, you know, I don't give a fuck. We can say that word on here. Like, thank
yeah.
you,
I
Andrea,
got it
for
tattooed on
giving us
my arm.
yes, yes, and just the living life on your terms. And with all the losses that you've had, and this could play a role into it too, Angela, is like you've seen firsthand. Life can be very, very short and it can be
Yep,
cruel and it can be unfair. So you need to live life on your terms on what makes you happy and what brings you value and what brings you fulfillment.
yep. Yeah, life
And
is way too short
yeah,
because my sister wasn't I mean, she was a smoker, but she wasn't overweight. She wasn't like, looking at her, you wouldn't have thought she was unhealthy, and she had a heart attack.
how old was she?
She had just turned 38. Wait, sorry, she was 37. She had
Yeah.
just turned 37.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I guess that would make sense because she would have turned 40 this year, so
So such an and that's the thing too is her death was so unexpected. No
yeah, yeah,
warning.
yeah, we
Came
had
like
no
boom.
idea. I'm the one with the heart problem, not her.
Mm,
She had a inflammation of the heart, which I guess she had been sick. She had like a virus or something before that, and I guess you can get an inflamed heart after having viruses. But then I also read that certain seizure medications can cause your heart to be inflamed, and she had epilepsy. So if you have epilepsy it, and you take seizure medication, it might be worth it to have a heart doctor on hand and maybe get your heart checked out. Because her heart was inflamed and she had a seizure that morning, and then her fiance had said she had texted again and said that she still felt weird, so we think she had another one, and maybe the stress of her heart being inflamed caused the heart attack,
mm,
and then we're hoping that if she was having a seizure, she had no idea what happened.
what was happening?
So,
Well, I want to thank you again, Angela. I want you to, I want to wrap up with you telling us what are some of the things that you've learned through this grief that has helped you process grief. Um, and any other message that you might want to get across to anyone that's listening that's in a similar position that you're in.
I don't know if I've really like finished processing this that well yet. I feel like I'm still processing. The first the first year, I feel like went by so fast. Like I don't think I blinked and it was over. Like
Mhm.
that first year was, I guess, a breeze. Second year, I don't remember being that hard. This year, if if you've lost your sibling and you're only in the first year or so, good for you, but, like, watch out for that 3rd year because this year has been absolutely terrible. I think I've cried more this year than I've cried before in the first couple years. Um, I don't know why. My counselor thinks it's because this was such a big year for her, or it should have been. She was engaged. Could have been a wedding, this year, because that should have happened. She was finally happy. She'd had such a shit string of relationships, and she finally found somebody who she was happy with, and he treated her good, and she had, a stable home. She was finally working. She was, getting her shit together. And then this happens. I mean, she was a heroin addict and for a few years, and never had any problems, and friggin' heart attack takes her out.
Mm.
And she was clean for probably 8 years, I think. 7, 8
Wow.
years.
Wow.
And
That's
then
that's what I mean. It just
it's
seems
not
like it's
fair.
so unfair. She did the
Yeah,
work.
it's not fair.
She was in recovery. She was building her life, and then life was taken from her before,
Yeah,
way, way, way too soon. And
yeah,
I think that, I'm going through that similar thing as you. As the first year, I think I was in absolute shock.
yeah,
Second year, I was keeping it together for everybody else. And now it's going into the third year, and grief has hit me so much harder. But I
yeah,
feel like you said, you're crying more now than you ever have. But I feel like, again, your nervous system is getting to a safe space to allow you to feel the deeper emotions that you were almost in robotic mode the first and second year. And
yeah.
you were the caregiver. And I know you have been the caregiver for your mother and your other siblings for a long time. And so now things are starting to settle a little bit more. And so you feel safe to let that grieving girl out, to let her heal. And to me, I'm a big believer in crying is healing. It doesn't mean that you're going backwards. That
Yeah,
actually means that you're moving forward in your
yeah.
grief, that you're allowing yourself to process these emotions. But I feel like a tragic loss that you've been through is nothing that you will ever get over. And it sounds so cliche that you learn to live with. And I don't know. I don't know what that experience is like because
It's
I'm new to this too. And I don't know if we
yeah,
learn to live with it. I don't know that
mm,
it hasn't gotten easier so far. So for everybody that says time heals, I call bullshit on
yeah.
because
It
it
doesn't.
to
It just
me
gets worse.
yeah, to me, it's gotten worse and yeah, I wanna it's different for everybody, but sounds like you're in the same boat as me as time has not healed. That as everyone's thinking around us that we should be moving on and, this was 3 years ago, why does she seem to all of a sudden start grieving now? It's to me, that's when our we start letting that wall down, and
I just had like a epiphany. Like my mom is gone. Like she's moved down south, and that first summer I was going, going, going for her. I didn't have time to grieve. So and then the following summer I was prepping for my best friend's wedding. So I was going for her. So I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I probably just now I didn't have anything to do this year.
Anything
So,
major. Yeah, so you're starting to slow down, and I don't know if you saw my post, along the same lines is I went right into, like, well, the Jeep Babes was we were doing our big annual show and shine event for Haven
yeah,
when my daughter passed, and so I had no choice, like, I had to throw myself into
yeah,
that, and then, um, into my business. I started throwing myself into my business and started, like, the trauma program, but through my own healing and self-reflection, I had to realize, like, I'm a leader, I'm a coach, I'm a wife, but you know what? I'm still a grieving mother. And
yeah,
that's the one role that I have not given any attention to.
yeah,
I've given no space for. And so holidays are hard for me. And I just decided for all of like November, December, I didn't do any Jeep events that were holiday related. And that may make me not look like a great leader or whatever. But my thing is I am I am taking care of that grieving mother right now. And I'm doing what she needs, not what my clients need, not what the Jeep babes need. I need to do what I need to do as a grieving mother. And
yep,
I think if you take on that role, because you have that hat too of a grieving sister, of a
yeah,
grieving sibling, and start wearing that role or that, you know, that hat and taking care of that girl because that's who needs you right now.
yeah,
And those tears and you're like doing your counseling, doing like the posts that you're doing this podcast, all of that is honoring yourself and your sister. And I
mhm,
hope that that brings you healing in time, a little bit of healing and, you know, one post at a time, one story at a time. But just in this last hour, just talking to you, you've done so much, like the journal that just keeps sticking out to me. Doing that for your nephew, doing the 40th birthday party, which was just this past summer. All of these things are unique. And I hope that people can learn from that, that you can do what you need to do to heal. Well, no matter what that looks like, doing what your aunt did or does do in setting a place for people that she loves that are no longer there, that she makes a space for them. I
yep,
love that. I love that. So,
yep.
do you have anything else that you want to share when it comes to your story, your loss, your grief, and to any other siblings that might be going through a loss like yours?
I think we covered everything. Just the last part you had said about the the crying or like the getting the sadness out, that part, that was another thing that actually brought me back to my sister. That was one thing we always did talk about. There was a movie that we used to watch, and that's actually a line from the movie. And there's a book I'm reading now that's about crying, basically. So if you are somebody like me that keeps their emotions in, and it sounds very cheesy, but crying does get the sad out. And that was always something that Andrea would say, and she got it from this movie. But one of the lines the guy says is, "Crying gets the sad out." And so she would say this to me, and I will break down and I cry, and I always do feel better after a good cry. And it's my husband always says the same thing too, like, you do feel better after you cry. And so, I mean, if you aren't a crier and you don't wanna cry in front of people, I mean, if you can find a room, like, sometimes if I need to, like, I'm just go in the bathroom and cry, or I wait till we go to bed and, like, cry, like,
Yeah.
just try not to, like, do the whole body shake so he doesn't know I'm crying as we're going to sleep, but it
Yeah.
helps. I mean,
It helps get the
it
sad
sounds
out.
silly, but it
Yeah.
helps. It does get the sad out.
I love that. And what a great way to end this podcast is allowing that, and giving that, I guess, Andrea's belief of crying gets the sad out. And I believe that too. And I did hear one other thing that's somewhat similar to that was um, not to wipe your tears because as soon as we cry, that's like the first thing we're doing this. And they say, allow your tears to fall to your heart because they're meant to heal your heart.
Mm.
And I'm like, I love that. So now when you see me cry, like literally bawling, just letting my tears fall so
And
that
you
they
won't
can,
smear your makeup.
yeah, yeah, so they can heal
I
my
have
heart.
major waterproof on.
Yeah.
I'm prepared.
No, I think you did excellent. Again, I know this is a hard time of year, but I think it could be a great thing going into the new year is spreading this awareness out that siblings grieve too. And then their loss is just as important as the parents that lost their child. I
Mm.
can say that. I am a parent that lost a child.
And you lost a
And
sister.
my boy's grief is just as important. It was just as traumatic. And we need to find space for that. We need to find space for them. And we need to know how to support the siblings going through grief and loss. So I want to thank the Thrive Tribe for tuning in today. I want to ask you to please subscribe, like, comment on this, but definitely share this episode with anyone that has maybe lost a sibling because Angela talked about so many things today that can help them from journaling, from having parties, for just thinking outside of the box when it comes to grief. That what we've been told by society, um, as Andrea would say, fuck that. Start doing what you need to do to heal and to support everybody around you. Merry Christmas, everybody. We will see you in the new year. Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much for being here
Thanks.
with us today. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you as well. Bye bye, everybody.